The history of voting, that's a massive question, especially for president. And so the first thing I would want to remind everybody of is none of us actually vote for president. We vote for electors who will then cast their votes for president. When the Constitution was first created and the first dozen or so presidential elections, most people did not even vote for the electors. The electors were chosen by state representatives, by governors or other powerful people in the states. So regular people were pretty far removed from the whole presidential process. So when it came to voting for president, very few people were involved with that at all. It's not until the 1820s and 1830s that power to vote for the electors was turned over to regular people. And that's about the same time that political parties became acceptable in this country. Prior to that, everyone was very nervous about political parties. George Washington, in his final speech as president, had warned the country about political parties, that they were dangerous and harmful to the country. But by the 1820s, 1830s, they're acceptable and even encouraged, that they're healthy for the republic to have these parties. And once you have that, you have this kind of flourishing in the elections of the competition between the parties that helps drive up participation. The parties help push people to the polls. So throughout the 1800s, you see very high participation rates, well over 70%, a couple that hit the 80% mark. But let's also remember that there's still a lot of limitations on who that is that's voting. Almost everywhere, it's just white men who are voting. Now, in the early parts of the 1800s, there used to be property requirements. So it wasn't just white men. It was white men who owned a certain amount of property who were allowed to vote. But as part of that emphasis on party loyalty and to kind of emphasize that role of being a white Protestant country, you have universal male suffrage. White male suffrage that's enacted almost in every state. That also, I think, helped boost the numbers of participation. It was what you were expected to do as a white male, was to go out and vote. It's really not until the 20th century, the early years, that you start seeing those numbers decline out of the 70s into the 60s and 50s. And there's a couple times in the 1920s where the participation rate is under 50%. I think that shows times where there's a lot of apathy among people for the elections. So I think there are maybe two reasons that come to mind for this kind of increased apathy. And the first is how the power of one person's vote has been diluted over time. And I don't think this is a bad thing, but as the electorate expanded, as women are allowed to vote, as African Americans are allowed to vote, as we lower the voting age to 18 years, the local representative for Congress represents a huge number of people in comparison to what it used to be. And so the power of one person's vote isn't as great as it used to be, and so we feel like maybe our vote doesn't matter. And the second reason is, I think, the way parties have driven hysteria to talk about how important it is. People have heard that time and time again. And with social media, it's even greater now. But I think people have just become a little calloused to that kind of argument with how important. We've heard that before. Nothing super bad happened. Do we really need to this time?